Hi, everyone. I've got a short practice to share with you today. I'm going to share a couple of movements I use a lot with my yoga therapy clients. And these are movements that focus on your hips and your shoulders, which are two areas where you have really important joints, right? These are where your limbs connect with your torso, and they are really important for our efficiency of movement and just how we feel overall. So we're going to focus there. We're going to keep things really, really simple today. And if you're willing, what I'll invite you to pay attention to is cultivating a sense of ease as we move through this practice. I think often our society is biased towards effort, and we learn that we need to push ourselves, we need to push our boundaries and our edges in order to make progress forward. And that's not wrong. It's true in certain contexts, right? It can be really, really helpful skill to be able to push ourselves a little bit. At the same time, if that's our only strategy for everything, it's not great all the time. And sometimes it can lead to problems if that's we only have the push mode, right? So the balance for pushing is really looking for valuing and understanding what it feels like to be in a place of ease. So if you're willing to explore that today, I really encourage you. It's a wonderful quality to bring more of into your life so that we can have balance, right, between that effort and that ease. It's really useful. It's kind of a guiding principle to play with. So for today's practice, I will be using a spinal strip for one of the movements. You may not have a spinal strip. If you've worked with me, you may have one. But if you don't have one of these, no worries at all. A couple of options. You can go do this with no props at all. Absolutely fine to just lie on the floor. If you'd like to lift up onto something and you don't have a spinal strip, you could roll a yoga mat, or you could use a rolled or folded blanket instead of the spinal strip and see how that feels. Everyone's body is going to be a little different, so you may find you need to experiment a little bit to find what works for you. And that's part of finding ease, right? It's not a one size fits all or a one size fits every moment kind of thing. So please feel free to adapt. We're going to work lying down in this practice. So you're welcome to lie on the floor or on your furniture. We are going to need a little space to the sides. So a couch probably isn't the best piece of furniture for this, but work with what you've got. Things are adaptable. And as you come to lie down, we're going to look for a sense of ease even right here. Okay. So did you lie down on the floor and then find out that the floor is not actually an easy place for you to lie, right? Would it help to put something under your head? Would it help to pad underneath you a little bit? Would it help to get up on your furniture, right? And some of us have learned to really step the feet really close to our bodies, and that can make things quite compressed through the knees, hips, low back. Sometimes that feels good. But you may find that if you step the feet a little further away from your sitting bones, that there's some space that comes into some of the joints of the lower body, right? Have a little space between your feet as well. And then whatever's comfortable with your hands and arms. The first movement we'll be doing is really super simple. This is butterfly. Some of you have done this before. So the basic movement is this. You're going to take your knees wide away from one another, and then you're going to come back up to stand on the soles of the feet. Knees come out like butterfly wings. Knees come back up towards the ceiling. As you go through this movement, you may rock onto the outer edges of your feet if your knees go that far. But for our purposes today, I'm going to say don't slide the feet into touch. You know, sometimes we do that in yoga postures, but for this particular movement, you're just going to let your feet stay where they're at. So, exploring this movement, we're going to look for a sense of ease. So, what does that feel like? Well, first of all, you're not moving into any places where you're getting pain. First and foremost, pain is not ease. So, you may have pain that exists in your body. If it's not changing, it's probably not a result of this movement. But if this movement is making you more uncomfortable, can you do it in a way where that doesn't happen? Maybe it gets smaller. And then if you slow the movement down, because sometimes going fast is one of the ways we look to make it easier for ourselves, and that's fine. But if you slow it down and you don't use speed, what are some other ways you can get ease? Might be making that movement smaller. In fact, you might experiment with what's the smallest butterfly I can do? How easy is that? If I just take the knees, I don't know, an inch or so in each direction. And then if I grow that, can I maintain that sense of ease? Or is there effort coming into the body somewhere? Is there some jerkiness or rocking or extra movement that's starting to happen as I'm doing that? And can I find a place where the movement is really smooth? It feels like both legs are moving together. You might even visualize the wings of a butterfly opening and closing. There's a lightness and a softness to that, right? So, can you find that at different tempos in your own body? And then you might also pay attention to fatigue. So, as you start to fatigue, it's not so easy anymore, right? So then you might just come to rest. And I know these movements are really small, but fatigue happens because our bodies often are not used to moving slowly and keeping movements small. We're much better at faster and bigger movements. Those are not bad. It's just we often already know how to do those. So we're changing things up here a little bit for your system just to see what happens, right? So rest and notice what you feel. Notice if anything is shifted. And then we're going to use a spinal strip or a mat or a blanket, or maybe not. Maybe you just stay right here where you are. But if you want to use one of those things, we're going to press up for a moment. So the spinal strip, if you have one, you're going to fold it in half. And I'll just show you the placement. So whatever you're lying on, the square edge is going to come a little bit below the bottoms of your shoulder blades. So there's the bottom of my shoulder blades. And I'm just a little bit lower than that on the back. I am not way down in the low back here, right? I'm a little bit higher, and I want the loop of the spinal strip to still support my head. If you're on a yoga mat or a blanket, you're going to place that down, right? You're going to lie on it, but do try to adjust because we want to have a lot of the back free actually for what we're doing here. So we're looking for that stimulus to be a little bit higher on the back, still below the shoulder blades. Sometimes we need to adjust a little bit as we come to lie down. And then the first question is, okay, whatever you're lying on, do you have ease here? And the first thing is pain is not ease. So you may find, okay, this is too much. If you're on a yoga mat or a folded or rolled blanket, you can make that smaller by unfolding or unrolling it, right? Or you may just choose to come flat onto the floor. Sometimes we get a little discomfort on something like this that then starts to dissipate as we spend time. It's not at the level of pain. That might be okay. We might still be ease, right? You might still be able to relax here, even though things are a little bit uncomfortable. So you are the one who determines how this feels, right? We're going to do a shoulder movement here. So elbows are going to come out from the shoulders. And we're going to bring the hands up. So it's kind of like you're hugging a tree. You're making a big circle with your arms. And the way I like to do this is pinch my thumbs and my first, at least my index finger, maybe my first couple fingers together, and then just let those tips meet so that there's actually some contact point between my fingers here. My elbows are at shoulder height, more or less. You might even imagine you have a thread in between your fingers. You're running your hands out along that imaginary thread so that your fingers are staying connected conceptually, right? The two arms are going to work together here. And so the movement is you're going to bring the elbows out to the sides. It's really just the upper arm bone moving in the shoulder. And then you're going to bring the fingers back to touch. You have that imaginary thread between the fingers. So there's a sense of connection between the two hands, coordination as the arms are coming out to the side and back up. And this is not easy to coordinate for a lot of us. So you may find there's some jerkiness, there's some rocking on the spinal strip, all kinds of things can happen here, right? So then we're going to look for ease, right? You may decide having my arms up like this, I actually don't have ease. This one's not for me. You might decide, okay, if I do a really small movement, that feels pretty easy. But then as I start to grow it, things get a little challenging. There's some sensation around the shoulder. There's some sensation in the back. There's some wobbling that happens. I got to grip through my abdomen, or I got to grip through my jaw, or I got to hold my breath, right? So we're looking for all those kinds of things that happen as part of that effort that we're sometimes not even aware of as we're moving. And can we do this with less effort? What does that look like? The other thing you're looking for here again is fatigue. So maybe you had 3 easy repetitions and then you were done, right? So be done. It's okay to be done. It's okay to keep going. Right? So pay attention to what's going on for you. When you do come to rest, then you might take a few breaths just to rest. And then you might roll to one side. If you're on something, just pull that out to the side so that you're able to lie here on the ground or whatever is standing in for the ground, right? So that you can then see, how does your body receive that support of the earth now? What does it feel like? Is there ease? Could there be more ease? Take your time to let yourself integrate the movements that you did. So you may find there's some little micro movements or some incremental relaxation that happens as your body adjusts. You may notice shifts in your breathing or your thoughts or something else about how you feel. Take the time to let all that unfold. There's a response in the system, right? There's no rush here, so you may be planning to add more practice onto this practice for yourself. You may be planning to spend a little time to do some relaxation or some meditation. So feel free to just move into that if you would like to, if that's what you've got on your plate today. If you're transitioning back into your life, just take your time to do that as well, so that you can take some of the benefits of this practice with you. Continue to look for ease as you move forward. I hope you enjoyed this exploration, found it really useful. I'd love to answer questions or hear what you experienced in the comments. Take really good care. May we all be balanced and well. Thank you.